The elevator doors slid open, revealing the hotel lobby she had built from the ground up. Wide glass walls soaked in the midday light, polished marble floors shone like still water, and guests in tailored suits and sun hats drifted in and out of conversations over mimosas. Everything was as she'd envisioned, sleek, warm, welcoming. But then the silence hit. A bellhop dropped his tablet. The front desk clerk stiffened. Conversations died out like a record scratching in a quiet room. And standing at the center of it all, wearing a borrowed pair of flats and a calm that only masked the inferno behind her ribs, was Dana Monroe, CEO and sole owner of the Monarch Grand Hotel. She took 2 slow steps forward. Then, in front of the entire lobby, the head of security, Randy Meeks, who Dana had known since the building was still concrete dust, stepped into her path and said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Monroe. You're not allowed on the premises." Dana's face didn't flinch. "Excuse me." He looked everywhere but her eyes. "The board has issued a temporary restraining order. Effective immediately. You're to leave the property." It was a punch to the gut. She glanced behind him. Her name, etched in gold on the entrance glass, gleamed in the afternoon sun. "I own this hotel," she said. "I know," Randy said quietly. "I'm just doing my job." 2 more security guards flanked her. Guests were whispering now. Cell phones were already up, some recording, others snapping photos. A young boy gasped as Dana's wrists were lightly touched, not cuffed, not grabbed, but escorted, like a stranger who'd wandered in from a street. 9 minutes later, Dana sat in the back seat of her Range Rover in the loading zone across the street. Her hands were trembling. Her assistant, Kara, sat in the front, eyes wide and furious. "You okay?" Kara asked. Dana stayed straight ahead. Then her voice dropped. "Call HR. Every last one of them is done. Today." Kara blinked. "All of who?" Dana turned slowly, eyes sharp as razors. "The entire staff." 6 weeks earlier, Dana Monroe sat on the edge of a mother's hospital bed, feeding her spoonfuls of orange jello. Her mother, Gloria, winced with every swallow, her thin arms trembling from the effort. The diagnosis had come too fast. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, nothing they could do but keep her comfortable. Dana had just secured the city permit for the hotel expansion. She should have been celebrating with champagne and ribbon cuttings. Instead, she was watching her mother fade like an old photo. "You look tired, baby," Gloria whispered. "Still working 16-hour days." Dana smiled tightly. "Only when I'm awake. You can't do everything alone." Dana kissed the top of her mother's hand. "I've been doing everything alone since I was 15. Gloria gave her a look. "You know what I mean." Dana didn't answer. After the visit, she sat in her car in the hospital parking lot and opened her email. 2 messages stood out, one from her attorney and one from her hotel manager, Brent Wallace. Both had the subject line, "Board Inquiry, Urgent." Dana sighed and clicked Brent's first. "Hey Dana, just a heads up. Got a weird request from the board. They want access to some financial docs you usually keep private. So they are doing a standard audit. I told them I'd run it past you first. Call me when you can." Her stomach sank. The Monarch Grand didn't have a traditional board. Dana had handpicked a 5-person advisory group when the hotel opened 3 years ago. She held 100% ownership, but they were there to offer guidance. Or so she thought. She replied quickly, "Do not send them anything until I review it. We'll call you tonight." The second email from her attorney confirmed what she was beginning to fear. The advisory board had filed for emergency proxy control under a clause she hadn't looked at in years. A clause that only activated if they could prove executive incapacity. Dana laughed out loud in her car, a bitter, humorless sound. Executive incapacity. She pulled her reflection into focus in the rearview mirror. Hair in a neat twist. Lipstick flawless. Heart in her throat. "Let them try," she muttered. She went to the hotel that night. Brent met her in the private elevator that led to the top-floor owner's suite. "I didn't know they could even do that," he said as the doors shut behind them. "They can't," Dana said. "Not legally. But if they create enough smoke, someone might believe there's a fire. They are saying you've been erratic. Absent." Dana turned. "Because I've been caring for my dying mother. That's what they are using." Brent raised his hands. I'm just a messenger. Dana stayed at him for a long moment. Then her voice softened. Sorry, I know. She didn't sleep that night. She walked the halls, all 22 floors of her hotel, speaking to housekeepers in broken Spanish, chatting with bartenders resetting the lounge. Every person she passed smiled and said, "Hi, Miss Monroe." She told herself that mattered, that loyalty would hold. She was wrong. The first small betrayal came the next morning. Brent canceled their meeting last minute, claiming an emergency at home. Later that day, Dana found out he'd attended a planning lunch with 2 board members. When she confronted him, he said it was nothing, just talking shop. 3 days later, one of the board members, Cynthia Hale, requested Dana's calendar access through the operations platform. It was denied automatically, but someone inside had overridden it an hour later. Then her executive assistant of 2 years, Doreen, gave 2 weeks' notice with no explanation. Each of these things by itself meant little, but taken together, Dana could feel it. Like termites under a hardwood floor, they were coming for her. She called an emergency board meeting. "You don't get to question my leadership," she said, standing at the head of the long glass conference table. "I built this hotel. I secured every dime of funding. I hired every one of you." Cynthia, cool in pearls and a blazer, leaned back. "Dana, no one's questioning your vision. But recently your decision-making has been difficult to follow. Because I don't tell you everything. Because we don't know what's going on." Dana nodded slowly. "I'll tell you what's going on. My mother is dying. I've been taking care of her. And if that bothers you, if compassion and family make me incapacitated, then maybe you should take a hard look at yourselves." The room went quiet. Dana pushed her laptop into her bag. "This meeting's over." As she left, she caught Brent's eyes. He didn't look away. He just blinked slowly, apologetically. That was when Dana knew. He'd already chosen his side. Back in her suite, Dana found a single white envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a printed memo. Subject: Proposal for temporary leadership adjustment. Effective immediately upon legal review. There were 5 signatures. Dana's heart pounded so loudly it muffled everything else. She read the memo twice, then a third time. Her name was not on it. By the time she stood from the couch, she felt something crack inside her. Not like a break, like a hatch opening. She'd built this place on trust. But that was a luxury. Now, it was war, and she would not lose. 3 weeks later, the court issued a temporary restraining order. Her legal team tried to fight it, but the board's lawyers were fast and aggressive. They cited erratic decision-making, disruptive behavior, and abuse of authority. The security footage of Dana confronting Brent had been edited and presented out of context. The judge signed off. She got the notice Friday night. By Monday morning, she was being escorted out of her own lobby. And now, 9 minutes later, she sat in her car with the engine idling. Kara tapped her phone. "You sure about this?" "I've never been more sure," Dana said. "You want me to call everyone?" "Literally everyone." Dana nodded. "Start with management. They go first." Kara swallowed. "What about all of them?" She finally turned, her face calm, voice steady. "I'll burn this place down before I let them take it." Kara hit dial. The phone rang once. Then someone picked up. Dana leaned forward. "Put me on speaker." She took a breath. Then she said the words that would echo through the halls of hospitality circles for years. "You're all fired." And she meant it. The phone was still on speaker when Dana said it. The silence that followed didn't last long. "Wait, what?" came a shaky voice from the other end. "You heard me," Dana said. Her tone was cold, exact. "I just got walked out of my own building. And I know exactly who made it happen. I want every department head gone. Today. I want their emails locked, badges disabled, and contracts terminated. You've got the authority. Use it." "But, Dana, Ms. Monroe, the board, does not own the hotel." "I do." Her voice dropped into a slow burn. "Check the filings. My name is on every inch of that building, not theirs." There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again, quieter. "All right." Dana nodded to Kara, who immediately started typing furiously on her phone. She wasn't just making calls now. She was launching a digital strike, revoking login credentials, issuing termination paperwork, and locking down key systems. The kind of thing that only someone in Dana's inner circle could do. And Kara was the last one left. 10 minutes later, the first text started coming in. What's happening? I'm locked out of my email. Security just took my badge. Dana, please tell me this is a mistake. Dana read them all without responding. The betrayal still sat raw in her chest, but she didn't have time to wallow. She wasn't just angry. She was preparing to take everything back, and she knew exactly how to do it. But before we get there, you need to understand where this all really began. Before the Monarch Grant, before the advisory board, before the gold-etched name on the front door, before Dana Monroe was a CEO, she was a housekeeper. It was 1998, and she was 19, cleaning rooms at a mid-range business hotel in North Carolina. Her mother had just been diagnosed with lupus, and Dana dropped out of UNC Chapel Hill to help cover the bills. She didn't tell many people that, not even years later when she was being profiled by Forbes and asked about her entrepreneurial spark. They all wanted the glamorous version, the self-made queen with a vision. But the truth was grittier, more painful, and far more real. The truth was, she built her empire out of desperation. Her first taste of injustice came during that job. She'd been on the team for over a year, working doubles and never missing a shift. One day, a guest left behind a wallet thick with $100 bills. Dana turned it in, of course. The hotel manager, a smug man named Steve with a wide tie and a toothpick always in his mouth, told her good job, then pocketed the money when he thought she wasn't looking. She confronted him. He laughed in her face. You want a tip? Get better at minding your business. She quit that afternoon, not because she was angry, though she was, but because something inside her cracked. She realized that the people at the top weren't smarter, kinder, or more deserving. They were just better at protecting themselves. That was the day Dana started her notebook. It was a cheap composition book. Inside, she wrote down every idea she had for how hotels should be run. Not just the business side, but the human side. How staff should be treated. How guests should feel. How the lobby should smell at dusk. What type of linen gave the best sleep. She guarded that book like a holy text. Over the next 10 years, Dana worked her way up through every corner of the hospitality industry. Reception, guest services, operations, purchasing. She made enemies fast, mostly because she asked hard questions and refused to smile while eating dirt. But she also made loyal friends. People who recognized that she didn't just want a title. She wanted change. By the time she was 33, she'd saved every dollar she could and started pitching investors for her own boutique hotel. She got 46 no's before someone finally said maybe. That maybe became a yes, and that yes became the Monarch Grant. The hotel opened to national acclaim. A black woman CEO in the luxury hotel space. Unheard of. She was celebrated in magazines, invited to panels, asked to write a book. She never did. She said the work wasn't finished. And now, it seemed like someone else wanted to finish it for her. Back in the car, Kara passed her the iPad. You've got 19 confirmed terminations, she said. Still waiting on legal to finalize 4 of the department heads, but it's moving fast. Dana scrolled through the list. Brent, Cynthia, head of operations, executive chef, head of PR, gone. But that was just the surface. The real damage wasn't what they'd taken from her. It was how they'd done it. Quietly, strategically, like thieves who smiled while they stole. Dana stayed out the windshield, watching guests come and go from her hotel like nothing had happened. None of them knew what had gone down an hour ago. The lobby was still humming with the illusion of elegance. But the foundation had cracked, and no one noticed, yet. She turned to Kara. I need to see the financials. Everything from the last 6 months. Kara blinked. Now. Dana didn't even blink. Yes. I want to know where they've been moving money. Who's been paid? What contracts have changed hands? If they went through all this trouble to push me out, they weren't just power grabbing. They are hiding something. Kara pulled up the secure folder and handed over the screen. Dana's fingers scrolled slowly. At first, everything looked normal. Payroll, vendor payments, routine expenses. But then she saw it, two wire transfers labeled Consulting Fee, Hale and Wallace Group, each for $125,000. She stared at the name. Hale, as in Cynthia Hale. Wallace, as in Brent Wallace. They'd created a shell company, and they were paying themselves through it. Dana's jaw clenched. They weren't just trying to take control, she said. They were stealing. Actively. Under my nose. Kara's voice dropped. This is felony fraud. Dana nodded. And I'm going to prove it. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her lawyer. Got the injunction lifted. You're legally allowed back on the premises as of this minute. Send me a list of terminated employees and I'll file breach of trust charges next. Dana took a breath. Then she stepped out of the car. Across the street, the hotel loomed. Her name, still glittering on the glass. And this time, when she walked back toward the doors, she didn't pause. Security at the entrance froze when they saw her. One of them reached for his earpiece. Dana held up her hand. Tell whoever's in charge that the real owner is back. And they've got 30 minutes to get out. She stepped through the revolving doors. The air inside was cool, perfumed with the signature orchid scent she'd chosen herself. Her heels echoed off the marble floor. Guests turned to look. But this time, no one stopped her. She made it to the front desk. A young receptionist, a new hire Dana didn't recognize, stood up, mouth half open. I'm sorry. Dana cut her off. Where's Brent Wallace? He's in the executive lounge, I think, with Ms. Hale. Dana turned and headed for the elevator. She pressed the button. Then she said it again, to herself this time. I'm back. The doors slid shut. When they opened again, she'd be face to face with the people who tried to bury her. And they had no idea what was coming. The elevator hummed softly as it climbed toward the executive lounge. Dana stood still, hands folded in front of her, her reflection staring back from the mirrored walls. Calm on the outside. A war zone underneath. Floor 22. The bell chimed. The doors opened. She stepped into silence. This floor was built for exclusivity. Thick carpet. Custom lighting. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. It had been Dana's idea, a quiet place where executives could meet with high-end clients, away from the buzz of the main lobby. It was meant to reflect dignity. Right now, it felt like the lair of traitors. She moved quietly down the hallway, heels muffled by the carpet. From behind the frosted glass doors of the lounge, she heard voices. Brent's, low and deliberate, and Cynthia's, sharp and clipped. Then something strange. Laughter. Dana didn't knock. She opened the door. Brent was mid-sentence, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Cynthia was on the leather couch, phone in her lap, smiling at something on the screen. When they saw Dana, they froze. Hello, she said. Brent stewed, whiskey still in his grip. You can't be here. Dana held up the court order. Actually, I can. Cynthia slowly rose to her feet. Her smile had vanished. Dana, this isn't personal, she began. Dana walked forward, not waiting for the rest. You paid yourselves $250,000 in consulting fees. You buried it under fake invoices. And then you tried to frame me as unfit so you could take over while you robbed this place blind. Brent opened his mouth. Save it, Dana said. She turned to the receptionist behind the lounge bar. Call security. Tell them to escort Ms. Hale and Mr. Wallace out. Effective immediately. They are terminated and under investigation for financial misconduct. The receptionist hesitated. Cynthia scoffed. You don't have that kind of authority right now. Dana pulled her phone from her coat pocket and tapped once. A document popped up. The reinstatement order, signed by a judge less than 2 hours ago. I have every kind of authority, she said. Now get out. Brent made a move like he wanted to argue. But then he saw her eyes, steady, unblinking, and he must have remembered who she was. He set his glass down. Fine, he said, but this isn't over. Dana almost smiled. For you, it is. Security arrived 3 minutes later. By the time they were escorted out, the lounge was empty again. Dana sat down in the seat Brent had just vacated. She didn't relax. Not yet. She opened her laptop and began reviewing contracts, vendor agreements, HR files, internal messages. And that's when she found it. A folder she hadn't seen before, tucked deep in the shared operations drive. Alt staffing models, emergency transitions. Inside, detailed plans for replacing her with an interim team, complete with alternate vendor bids, a new brand rollout, even a PR campaign. It wasn't just a takeover. They were going to erase her, rebrand the Monarch Grand under a new name, strip away her legacy, spin her absence as a graceful retirement, all within 3 months. They'd even drafted a farewell press release. Dana stayed at the document. Her chest tightened, but not from sadness. It was fire. She picked up her phone. Kara, I need a list of every external partner we've used in the last 6 months. Legal, PR, investors, catering, everything. I want to know who they've been talking to. Kara didn't hesitate. You got it. Dana hung up, closed the laptop, and stood. She walked over to the window. The city stretched out before her, summer sun blazing off the glass buildings. From this high up, you could almost forget the betrayal, the humiliation. But Dana didn't want to forget. She wanted to remember every second of it, every hand that reached into her chest and tried to pull her out of her own story. They had almost succeeded. Almost. She took a deep breath and whispered, "You don't get to rewrite me." Behind her, the elevator dinged. A soft knock followed. Kara stepped in, holding a manila folder. "You need to see this." Dana opened it. At the top, a flagged email from one of the board members. Subject, new ownership option. And in the thread below, a proposal from an outside firm to buy the hotel. Quietly, through intermediaries, valued far below market. They weren't just taking the business. They were selling it out from under her. Dana's fingers tightened around the folder. Kara watched her carefully. "What do you want to do?" Dana didn't answer right away. She turned back to the window, eyes on the city. "They wanted a war," she said. "Let's give them one." And this time, she wasn't just fighting to get back what she'd built. She was going to make sure none of them ever got the chance to do this to anyone else again. Dana didn't sleep that night. She sat alone in the executive suite on the 22nd floor, the very room she'd once stayed in the night before the grand opening. Back then, everything had felt new and untouchable. The carpet still smelled of glue. The lights had glowed too bright. She'd stared out over the city and thought, "I made this." Tonight was different. The suite felt too quiet, like a monument to something lost. The folder Kara had brought her lay open on the desk. The proposal was dated 2 weeks before the board filed the temporary restraining order. The numbers weren't just low, they were insulting. The hotel had been appraised at $91 million last year. The offer in the email? $48 million, all cash. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a heist. Dana ran her hand across the page. Her name wasn't mentioned anywhere, not even once. The tone of the proposal was clean, distant, like they were talking about an empty property, not the living, breathing thing she'd built from dust. Asset may become available if existing leadership is removed. That line echoed like a scream in her mind. She didn't cry, but something in her chest cracked again. Not like a hatch this time, like a dam. She stood, walked to the bedroom, and looked in the mirror. A deep crease ran across her brow. Her hair, once pristine, was a little loose at the edges. Her blouse wrinkled at the sleeves. She looked older, harder, and that was fine. She tapped her phone. "Kara, are you still up?" A groggy voice answered. "I'm always up now." Dana exhaled. "Sorry, meet me in the boardroom in 30 minutes. I'll bring coffee." They sat across from each other in the conference room as dawn broke. The city was still dark. Only the emergency exit signs lit the glass walls. Kara pulled out her laptop. "Okay, so I've been digging. That firm that made the offer, Silver West Group, is a shell. They don't actually run hotels. They buy distressed assets, hold them for 2 years, and flip them. Most of their money comes from private equity. And 2 of their board members used to work with Cynthia." Dana closed her eyes. There it was. "I also found something else," Kara said carefully. She turned the screen toward Dana. A photo. Cynthia, Brent, and 2 men in suits, sitting at dinner. Same date as the planning lunch Brent had lied about. "I had a friend at a reservations firm pull this from OpenTable." Dana studied the photo. They looked relaxed, not like people talking business, like people celebrating. Kara leaned in. They were going to sell the hotel, then use the payout to start a new venture. There's a registered LLC already in process. Guess what it's called? Dana raised an eyebrow. Kara clicked the next tab. Monarch Properties Group. Dana almost laughed. They were going to keep the name. Yeah, Kara said, but not the woman who built it. Dana's jaw clenched. I want this entire scheme unraveled. Legally, financially, publicly. Quiet won't cut it anymore. If I keep this in the dark, they'll do it again to someone else. Kara hesitated. That could get ugly. These people don't fight fair. Dana looked up. Neither do I. By noon, her lawyers were drawing up criminal complaints. She'd already terminated the board members by formal letter, signed, time-stamped, and delivered by courier. Her legal team advised her to move carefully. Dana didn't want careful. She wanted loud. That afternoon, she called a press conference. They set it up in the main ballroom, the same one where she'd announced the Monarch Grand's launch. Now, 3 years later, the press sat in the same rows of chairs, scribbling in notebooks and checking live feeds. Dana stepped up to the podium, flanked by her lawyer and Kara. Cameras flashed. I want to thank everyone for coming, she said, voice calm and steady. There are rumors circulating about recent events at the Monarch Grand. Let me clear them up directly. She paused. Let the silence settle. Last week, I was forcibly removed from this property. Today, I am back. The individuals responsible for that removal were not only acting without authority, they were actively engaged in criminal fraud. They attempted to take control of this hotel in order to sell it out from under me. Gasps rippled through the room. Dana continued. I've terminated those individuals. Effective immediately, their access, privileges, and legal relationships with Monarch Holdings are over. My legal team has filed civil and criminal actions. And I want every woman, every black entrepreneur, every person who's been told they're too emotional, too different, too unfit to run what they built. I want you to hear this loud and clear. You don't let thieves steal your crown just because they smiled while doing it. Applause broke out. Not from everyone, but enough. She stepped down from the podium. That night, headlines exploded. Black CEO retakes hotel after being wrongfully ousted. Monarch Grand shakeup, fraud, firing, and a swift return. From boardroom to battleground, Dana Monroe fights back. But the storm had only just begun. The next morning, Dana got a call from an old investor she hadn't heard from in over a year. Dana, just read everything. I'm so sorry. We never saw it coming. Dana didn't waste time on pleasantries. Did you know Cynthia had connections to Silver West Group? No, the investor said. But now that I'm looking, there's definitely a paper trail. I've got friends who've done deals with Silver West. Want me to start making calls? Yes, Dana said. And I need names. Consider it done. She hung up. The momentum was shifting, but something still felt off. If Brent and Cynthia had been planning this takeover for months, they would have needed more than just board support. They would have needed people inside. People close. Dana opened her laptop and began reviewing internal message logs, calendar appointments, even security access records. Most of it was routine, until she found a file labeled simply, Service Notes, Alt Access. It was a spreadsheet, access logs for employee badges, specifically override entries. And one line jumped out. Kara Mendez, 14 after-hours entries, 6 to the executive floor, 2 to Dana's personal office. Dana's blood ran cold. She stayed at the entry, then cross-referenced it against the calendar. The night she'd been at the hospital. The day the restraining order was filed. The day before the Silver West email. No. She sat back in the chair, suddenly cold. Kara walked in just then, holding coffee. Got an update. Silver West is denying everything. But one of their lawyers blinked on the phone. We might have something. Dana didn't answer. She just stared. What? Kara asked. Dana turned the screen toward her. Tell me why your badge shows you in my office. After hours. When I wasn't here. Kara blinked. Dana, I don't know what you're talking about. You accessed my computer. Kara's face changed. She didn't even try to deny it. You think I wanted this to happen? Kara said, stepping forward. I was trying to survive. Brent said you were stepping down. That you'd left everything to them. That's a lie. I didn't know that then, Kara snapped. They told me if I didn't cooperate, I'd lose everything. My visa, my job, my life. I didn't sell you out. I just looked. Dana stood slowly. Every inch of her body felt like stone. Pack your things, she said. Kara's voice cracked. Dana, please. You're done here. Tears filled Kara's eyes. I helped you take them down. You helped after helping them get in. Dana opened the door. Go. Kara stood for a long time. Then she walked out, and Dana was alone again. The door clicked shut behind Kara. The silence that followed had weight. Dana stood still, staring at the empty doorway like it might change its mind and reopen. But it didn't. She had always known that betrayal never came from strangers. It came from the people close enough to whisper in your ear while they loosened the floor beneath you. Kara, the last person she thought would fold. She walked to the desk and sat down, elbows planted, fingers steepled in front of her mouth. The sting of what had just happened hit harder than she expected. For a moment, she couldn't think, couldn't plan, could only feel. She had trusted Kara. But trust, she reminded herself, was a luxury she could no longer afford. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of it. Unknown number. I have information about Silver West. You're being watched. She stared at the message. Watched? Before she could respond, another message followed. Do not reply to this number. Check your email in 5 minutes. Then the line went dead. No response. No way to trace it. Dana felt a slow, creeping chill crawl up her spine. She checked the time. 2:43 p.m. She opened her email. At exactly 2:48, a new message arrived from an untraceable burner address. The subject line, your enemies have enemies too. Inside was a single PDF attachment. She clicked it. The document was a private memo, Silver West internal. It confirmed the worst. They had planned everything. The fake consulting fees, the staged audit request, even the restraining order. They had done it before, used complicit insiders to destabilize leadership, manufacture a scandal, install a proxy CEO, and acquire properties for a fraction of their value. Dana scanned the names attached to the email string. One jumped out at her. Victor Toland. She knew that name. Investor. Former hedge fund manager. The same man who had passed on her pitch 6 years ago and told her to bring a white man with her next time if she wanted a real shot at funding. Victor had laughed when he said it, like it was a joke. Now, he was backing Silver West's acquisition campaign, and Dana knew exactly what that meant. This wasn't just a hostile takeover. This was personal. That night, she sat on the rooftop terrace, staring at the skyline. The city lights shimmered, but she wasn't looking at them. She was thinking about war. The legal case would take months to move through the system. By then, the damage could be irreversible. Reputations destroyed. Backdoor deals closed. She needed to move faster. And to do that, she needed allies. Not the kind you trust. The kind you leverage. She picked up her phone and made a call she never thought she'd make. It rang 4 times. Then a voice answered. Deep. Familiar. Dana Monroe, he said. Wasn't expecting to hear from you. Hello. Donovan. Donovan Pierce had been her biggest competitor for years. Ran a luxury chain on the West Coast. Sleek, modern, ruthless. They battled over investors, press attention, and even key hires. But there was one thing he hated more than Dana. Private equity tearing through independent hotels. I need a favor, Dana said. Damn, you must be desperate. I am. He chuckled. Let's hear it. I want to leak internal Silver West files. Not through me. Through you. Your team. I want to expose what they are doing. Donovan whistled. That's a hell of a risk. Dana's voice didn't waver. I'm willing to take it. A pause. Then, I assume you've got receipts. More than enough. She heard him exhale. Send it. I got a guy at the Wall Street Journal who'll bite hard on this. Done. And Dana. Yeah. If this blows up in your face, I'll deny I ever spoke to you. She smiled faintly. I wouldn't expect anything less. The article hit 48 hours later. Private equity giant accused of pattern takeovers, fraudulent tactics. Silver West's name was on every business network. The memo Dana had leaked was included in full. Donovan's press team spun the narrative to include other properties that had faced similar buyouts. Patterns emerged. Victims spoke. And just like that, the tide turned. Calls flooded into Dana's office. Journalists, lawyers, even former staff from Silver West itself, looking to come clean. But there was one call she didn't expect. Her receptionist transferred it late in the day. A woman named Yvette wants to speak with you. Says it's personal. Dana hesitated. Yvette Monroe, her aunt. She hadn't spoken to her in over a year, not since the last fight about Gloria's medical bills. Dana picked up. Aunt Yvette. There was a long silence. Then, your mother would be proud of you, baby. Dana blinked hard, swallowing the sudden lump in her throat. I hope so, she whispered. I saw the news. You always were stubborn as hell. Dana laughed, a quiet, broken sound. Runs in the family. A pause. I know things were hard between us, but if you need help now, real help, just say the word. You're not alone. Dana closed her eyes. After everything, after every betrayal and backstab, that single moment of love felt like a life raft. Thank you, she said softly. But the calm didn't last. That night, someone tried to break into her suite. Security footage showed a man in a maintenance uniform using a cloned keycard. He didn't take anything, just planted a bug behind the TV, likely meant to capture private conversations. When Dana reviewed the footage, her hands went cold. The man wasn't someone she recognized, but the keycard was registered to a room that had been paid for by Silver West's regional director. The message was clear. She was hitting back too hard. And now, they were going to make it personal. Again, the next morning, Dana stood at the window of her office, watching the sunrise bleed into the skyline. Every time she thought it was over, the fight deepened. Every time she thought she had exposed the last lie, another shadow rose. But she was no longer rattled. Now, she was focused. She turned to her new assistant, an ex-corporate paralegal named June she'd hired within hours of firing Cora. I want background on every executive tied to Silver West. Every spouse, every side company, every past employment tie. I want names, deals, and hidden money. You find it, we freeze it. June nodded. Yes. And June. Yes. Get me private security. The good kind. A pause. With surveillance sweep capabilities. Dana looked her dead in the eyes. With counter-surveillance capabilities. June didn't blink. I know just the people. Dana turned back to the window. She had survived being kicked out of her own kingdom. Now she was going to tear theirs apart. The private security team arrived at 7:13 a.m. Not in uniform. Not with loud gear or tough guy energy. They walked into the Monarch Grand looking like consultants, carrying coffee and tablets, nodding politely to staff. But within 15 minutes, they had swept the executive suite, boardroom, server room, and Dana's office. By 8:02, they'd uncovered two more bugs, one under her conference table, the other in the air vent near her bedroom mirror. Dana sat across from the lead, a former FBI cyber investigator named Nyla Reese. Sharp eyes, calm voice. You are being monitored, Nyla said, holding up a sealed evidence bag. But whoever planted these, they weren't amateurs. Dana glanced at the device. How long do you think it was active? At least 5 days, maybe longer. And who was listening? Nyla hesitated. I don't have proof, but the style and signal encryption, it matches the pattern we've seen from contractors who work with Silver West's asset acquisition teams. Asset acquisition, Dana repeated. That's what they call people. Not in writing, Nyla said, but yes. Dana leaned back in her chair. Fine. Then we go deeper. You have full clearance. Any bug, breach, or hidden file, dig it up. Nyla gave a short nod. I'll need full access to the internal server. You've got it. By midday, Dana had cleared her calendar. She wasn't taking meetings. She wasn't doing interviews. She wasn't checking email unless it came from legal or her new assistant, June. The focus was total. June entered quietly and set a folder on the table. Financial webs starting to show. You were right. Silverware set up a multi-layered deal to hide where the acquisition money was going. Look at the second page. Dana flipped it open. There, in neat bullet points, was what she'd feared and suspected. Silverwest had partnered with a Kaimon-based investment vehicle, partially funded by Toland Capital. Victor Toland again. She tapped her finger on the page. Is the one. They are fronting him as a back-end buyer so he never has to go public. June nodded. And you're not the only target. They've done this to at least 3 other independent hotels. We found the shell companies. Same playbook every time. So we burned the whole playbook. Already started, June said. Your lawyer filed an injunction this morning to freeze the holding accounts connected to the shell companies. And we just got an emergency hearing scheduled for Monday. Dana stared at her. How? I used to be a corporate paralegal. Remember? June smiled slightly. I called in favors. Dana blinked. I don't pay you enough. Not yet. That afternoon, Dana did something she hadn't done in weeks. She visited her mother's grave. Gloria Monroe had passed just 2 days after Dana was thrown out of the hotel. Dana didn't even get to say goodbye. She'd been in legal meetings, scrambling to stop the bleeding, thinking there would still be time. There wasn't, and she hadn't been back since. Now she stood in the hot June air, a bouquet of white lilies in her hand, staring at the stone that bore the name Gloria Renee Monroe and the words. She never bent. She never begged. Dana knelt and placed the flowers at the base of the headstone. They tried to take it all, she said quietly. Not just the hotel. Everything I built. Everything you believed in. A breeze stirred the leaves around her. But I'm still standing. She sat there a long time, legs folded under her, until the shadows stretched long across the grass. When she rose, she wasn't shaken anymore. She was steel. That night, just before midnight, June called her. Voice tight. Urgent. You need to see this. Dana was already dressed, seated in her suite, reading a deposition draft. What is it? There's a new article going live. Not from our side. A smear piece. They're going after your past. High school suspensions. All debt from college. Even a fake story that you were fired for stealing linens at your first job. Dana's chest clenched. They are trying to dirty the water before the hearing, she said. Exactly. Who's publishing it? An outlet that's taken ad money from Silverwest before. It's not credible, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to be loud. Dana was quiet for a long moment. Then, let it run. June paused. Are you sure? Yes. Won't it? I said let it run. June exhaled. Okay. Dana hung up. She stayed out the window. Light from the city blinked like distant eyes. She'd seen this tactic before. It was what they did when the numbers weren't enough. When they couldn't win the truth, they doted the field. But what they didn't realize was that Dana had already lived through worse. And she was about to turn their game inside out. The next morning, the article dropped. Who is Dana Monroe really? A past of debt, conflict, and unanswered questions. It was trash. Thinly sourced. Heavy on innuendo. But it spread fast. Blogs picked it up. Twitter ran wild. Anonymous trolls swarmed her inbox and DMs. The usual suspects cheered it on. Dana didn't flinch. Instead, she made a call to her PR team and said just 3 words. Let's go loud. They knew what she meant. By noon, a response video was posted to every one of the Monogram social media channels. Dana herself, sitting behind the desk in her office. No lights. No script. Just her. She looked into the camera and said, You've probably read the article. The one where they dig up mistakes from 20 years ago and try to make them the story. I won't pretend I was perfect. I've failed. I made hard calls. I've lost people I love. But what I've never done, and will never do, is steal what someone else built. She paused. They say I was suspended in high school. That's true. I got into a fight with a teacher who mocked my mom's disability. They say I owed money in college. Also true. I worked 2 jobs and dropped out to help her survive. Another pause. And the story about the linens. I still have the termination letter. I framed it. You know why? Because the manager who fired me is now asking for a job at this hotel. That's how full circle this thing has come. She looked dead into the camera. I've been underestimated my whole life. But this isn't just about me. It's about every woman who ever got told to calm down, every black entrepreneur who got sidelined, and every builder who watched vultures circle once the foundation was strong. I'm not backing down. And I'm not done yet. She ended the video herself. Within an hour, it had 1.3 million views. That afternoon, June burst into Dana's office holding her phone. We just got a call from a whistleblower at Silver West. Dana sat up. Who? A junior associate. Said is ready to give you full internal files, emails, even audio recordings. Says what they've done goes way deeper than we thought. Dana stared at her. Is he safe? Is scared. But he says he can meet tonight. Quietly. No phones. He picked the location. Dana stood. Then let's go. June hesitated. You sure you want to go in person? Dana was already pulling her coat on. Yes. Because she knew. Whatever was waiting at that meeting, it would either break this case wide open or burn everything down for good. The whistleblower wanted to meet at a public park near the river, far from downtown. No coffee shop. No hotel bar. Just open air, dim lighting, and enough distance from cameras to stay invisible. Dana arrived just after 10 p.m. She wore a dark coat, hair pulled back. No security detail. She didn't want to spook him, but June trailed a few paces behind, her eyes sharp, hand never far from her phone. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that clung to your skin like sweat and secrets. The only sounds were wind in the trees and the occasional growl of cars crossing the bridge overhead. Then she saw him. Mid-20s. Wire-thin. Nervous energy pouring off him like steam. He was pacing by a bench, phone in hand, tapping it rhythmically against his thigh. Dana approached. You Marcus. He flinched, nodded. Yay. Sorry. I wasn't sure you'd actually come. I'm here, she said simply. June stayed back, pretending to be on a call, watching everything. Marcus shifted from foot to foot. I don't have much time. If they find out I talked to you. They won't, Dana said. Just talk. He took a breath and opened the backpack at his feet. Pulled out a small flash drive. Held it out like it was radioactive. This has everything, he said. The internal docs, the financials, call logs, and audio. Real audio. For meetings. Meetings about me. Dana asked. About you. And about 3 other owners they're targeting next. Dana's jaw tightened. Names. Felix Tanaka in San Diego. Gloria St. James in Atlanta. And a place in Seattle. A native-run boutique hotel called Seven Cedars. Marcus looked her in the eye, and for the first time, his voice went steady. You're not the only one, but you're the first who hit back this hard. Dana took the flash drive, slipped it into her pocket. Why are you doing this? He hesitated. My sister's in real estate. She built a co-op in Baltimore. They tried to pull the same playbook on her. Smiled in her face while they gutted her contracts. He shrugged. I didn't stop it then. I couldn't. But maybe I can now. Dana nodded once. You just did. They were halfway back to the car when Dana's phone rang. She checked the screen. Nyla. She answered. Talk to me. We just finished scanning your home, Nyla said. We found another bug. One of the newer models. Short range, but it was active. Dana stopped walking. Where was it? In your kitchen. Under the island. Same signal source as the others. How recent? Nyla didn't answer right away. Dana. It was planted last night. Dana went cold. That meant someone still had access. Someone recent. Someone inside. Her mind raced. Not Cora. She was gone. Not Brent or Cynthia. No access. That left one other place no one had looked yet. The maintenance division. Low clearance. Minimal oversight. Easy to overlook. Perfect for slipping in unnoticed. She hung up. June. We're checking the staff logs. Maintenance team. Any new hires in the last 2 weeks? I want face IDs, shifts, vehicles, everything. June was already dialing. By the time they got back to the Monarch Grand, Marcus was long gone, flash drive burning a hole in Dana's coat pocket. Upstairs in her suite, she plugged it in and handed it to June. Start pulling copies. Offload backups. Secure the originals in cold storage. We can't afford to lose this. June nodded, fingers flying. Dana sat down at the table, eyes on the drive's file list as it loaded. There were hundreds of documents. One folder jumped out, target profiles, Monarch acquisition. She clicked it. Inside were PDF dossiers. Her photo, her history, financials, interviews, public records, even notes from private conversations with Brent, things she'd said off the record, in confidence. Lines like, "She's emotionally compromised due to her mother's illness," can be provoked into rash decisions. Her hands curled into fists. They hadn't just tried to remove her. They had studied her, mimicked her, predicted her, then built a narrative designed to destroy her 1 inch at a time. This, Dana said, is their blueprint. June looked up. It's not just about taking things. It's about rewriting the story. No, Dana said slowly. It's about stealing legacy. 3 hours later, her legal team arrived. They printed the documents, categorized the files, and began drafting what would become the central exhibit in a federal case, Monroe versus Silverwest Holdings and Affiliates. But that wouldn't be enough. Not for Dana. This needed to be public. She needed every victim to see what was being done to them. So she picked up her phone and called a journalist she trusted, a former investigative reporter who owed her a favor. "Kayla, it's Dana Monroe. I've got something big. You're going to want to see it. But you can't take it to press yet. I want you to help me tell it my way. No filters. No edits. My story. Their schemes." Kayla hesitated. "You know, that's not how mainstream works." "I'm not talking mainstream," Dana said. "I'm talking full-blown, no-holds-barred documentary. Film, interviews, dossiers, the works." Kayla was silent, then said, "When can I start?" Dana looked at the flash drive. "Now." But just when the tide seemed to turn, the next blow hit. Nyla came back with her team at dawn. This time, she looked grim. "We ran the background checks. One of your current floor supervisors, Otis Rankin, was flagged." "Flag how?" "Is using a fake name. Real id's William Hendricks, former security contractor, blacklisted 5 years ago after a corruption probe in Arizona. Guess who hired him here?" Dana didn't speak. She didn't need to. "Brent Wallace," Nyla confirmed. 6 days before the board voted to remove you." June's jaw dropped. Dana just stood still. "They left someone behind," she said quietly. "A shadow." "More than one," Nyla said. "He's not alone. There's a pattern. Quiet hires. Quiet shifts. All made in the weeks leading up to your removal." "Where's Otis Hendricks now?" "We tried to detain him this morning. He was gone. Checked out at 5:12 a.m. We found a burner phone in his locker." Dana took it from Nyla and flipped through the messages. One text stood out. "Clean it before the hearing. 72 hours. No loose ends." She closed the phone. "They're not just trying to win," she said. "They're trying to erase evidence." Nyla nodded. "We've already notified law enforcement." But Dana wasn't waiting for police. She turned to June. "Call Donovan. Tell him we're moving the press conference up." "Why?" Because we don't have 72 hours. We've got now." At 8:15 a.m., Dana stood once more at the Monarch Grand Podium. The media was already there. Word had leaked. Reporters wanted blood. She gave them truth instead. "I was kicked out of my own hotel. Told I was unfit. Lied about. Spied on. Targeted. But this wasn't about leadership. It was about theft. I have proof of a coordinated campaign to steal not just this hotel, but dozens more, led by people hiding behind contracts, shells, and silence." She held up the flash drive. "This," she said, "is their playbook. Flashes, shouts, hands in the air, and over all of it, Dana's voice. They underestimated the wrong woman." The press conference sent shockwaves through the industry. By noon, Dana Monroe was trending nationally. News anchors called her the executive who fought back. Legal pundits dissected her claims. Financial analysts scrambled to distance their firms from Silverwest. And still, Dana didn't rest. She had a war room now. 2 floors of the hotel cleared out and restructured for strategy, legal, PR, and security. June managed the schedule like her life depended on it. Nyla ran silent sweeps every 6 hours. Dana's attorneys camped out, phones buzzing, printers running non-stop. But it was the victims who mattered most. They started coming forward the day after the press conference. A woman from Atlanta, Gloria St. James, called personally. Dana, they offered me a golden parachute and said I was lucky. They made it sound like I was doing something wrong by holding on to what I built. A voice message from Felix Tanaka, owner of a historic Asian-American-run hotel in San Diego. They changed the terms of my partnership and said it was just cleaning up the books. I thought it was normal. And from a younger man named Darren Wire, representative for Seven Cedars, they are threatening us quietly, pulling permits, delaying vendor contracts. I couldn't figure out how they knew which strings to pull. Now I know. Dana listened to every call, every message. She didn't offer sympathy. She offered action. Bring them here, she told June. All of them. If they are willing to stand with me, I'll stand with them. You want to form a coalition? June asked. Dana shook her head. I want to form a shield. That weekend, 3 of the hotel owners flew in. Dana hosted them at the Monarch Grand. Her house, her rules. They met in a private lounge on the 18th floor. No press, no photos. Just 4 people who'd all been burned by the same fire. Felix was small and quiet, the kind of man who listened twice before he spoke. Gloria was fierce, with tight gray curls and eyes that had seen more than she let on. Darren was young, mid-30s, and angry in the way people get when they realize the system wasn't just broken, it was rigged from the start. Dana didn't give them a speech. She just laid it out. They are scared. That's why they are moving fast. They know what happens if we line up and don't break. So don't break. She pulled out 4 sets of folders, copies of the files from the flash drive, redacted just enough to protect the whistleblower. Use these to find the holes in your own contracts, your boards, your lenders. They have a pattern, and once you see it, you'll realize this wasn't personal. It was profitable. Gloria leaned in. So what's your endgame? Dana didn't hesitate. Expose. Litigation. RICO suit if we can push it far enough. I want Silver West in court, in the headlines, and in history books as the company that collapsed because it couldn't buy silence. Darren whistled. You're really going for the kill shot. Dana looked at him. They tried to end me. I'm just returning the favor. That same night, Nyla burst into Dana's suite without knocking. They're getting desperate, she said, dropping a set of printed documents on the table. What is it? A motion filed in a Delaware court. Silver West is trying to declare themselves a distressed creditor of Monarch Holdings. Dana frowned. How? They don't own any stake. They're claiming a pending sale, using forged contracts from the board you fired. June joined them, scanning the printouts. This is sloppy, she said. If they are trying this now, it means they are losing ground. Dana nodded slowly. Or they are trying to muddy the water before Monday's hearing. Either way, Nyla said, it's a sign they are out of real options. Dana stood. Good. That means it's time for me to go on offense. The next morning, Dana walked into the same courthouse where the restraining order against her had been filed 5 weeks earlier. But this time, she wasn't alone. Felix, Gloria, and Darren walked beside her. June followed close behind. Press swarmed the stays, cameras flashing, but Dana didn't stop. Inside, her legal team took their place. On the other side of the courtroom, Silver West counsel waited, stiff suits and paper smiles. But there was something else in their posture now. Fee. The judge reviewed the emergency filings, the accusations of wire fraud, corporate conspiracy, and forged financials. He flipped through the Silver West documents, then turned his eyes on Dana. Ms. Monroe, are you prepared to proceed? She stood, voice clear, unshaking. I am, Your Honor. It wasn't a trial. Not yet. But the court issued a temporary injunction in Dana's favor. All attempted claims by Silver West to acquire Monarch Holdings were suspended. Their access to internal systems was permanently revoked. Their attempt to declare creditor status was denied due to insufficient and misleading documentation. The courtroom broke into whispers. Dana didn't smile. She didn't need to. Outside, a reporter shouted, Ms. Monroe, what now? Dana turned, cool as stone. Now, she said, we make sure no one else ever goes through what we did. Back at the hotel, Dana poured herself a drink for the first time in weeks. One glass of scotch. Neat. She stood on the rooftop terrace, the city buzzing below. For the first time since this began, the building felt like haze again. But her phone buzzed. A private number. She answered. Monroe, she said. A low voice replied. Your little victory in court today. Cute, but you don't know who you're really up against. She didn't recognize the voice. Is that a threat? No, the caller said. It's a warning. Silver West is nothing compared to what's coming next. You hurt people with power, Dana, and they don't forgive. Click. Line dead. Dana stood frozen. She hadn't just pissed off the board or a few crooked execs. She'd stepped on something deeper, something older, and they were just getting started. Dana didn't move for a full minute after the call ended. The wind on the rooftop blew her curls against her cheek. Her hand still held the phone. Screen black. Call ended. But the words, you don't know who you're really up against, kept ringing in her ears. She'd faced lawsuits, smears, theft, betrayal. But this was different. This was shadowed, purposeful, and it felt ancient, like she'd knocked on a door no one was supposed to touch. June found her there 15 minutes later, back in control but quiet, still holding the half-empty glass of scotch. You okay? She asked. Dana didn't answer right away. Someone just told me I picked the wrong enemy. June set her bag down. That sounds like someone who's used to no one fighting back. Dana finally looked at her. What if this goes higher than Silver West? What if they're just a shell? You think there's someone behind them? I know there is, Dana said. But I don't have proof. Not yet. June was already pulling out her laptop. Then we find it. They worked late into the night. June, Dana, Nyla, and 2 investigators from the legal team. They combed through the flash drive again, this time looking for patterns, repeating email addresses, forwarded domains, strange file names, anything that didn't match the known Silver West infrastructure. At 2:11 a.m., Nyla called out. Found something. A shared drive Silver West used for investor briefings. Half the access points are from private VPNs. But one of them, registered to a New York law firm, Ashbridge and Rowe. June blinked. That's not a finance firm. No, Nyla said. They're lobbying consultants. Dana stayed at the screen. You're telling me Silver West has political strategists involved in real estate buyouts? Not just involved, Nyla said. They were carbon copied on the earliest internal memos. Another click. A series of names loaded. And there it was. Victor Toland, Ashbridge and Rowe, Silver West Holdings. All interlinked. Dana saw it clearly now, like a spiderweb catching dew at sunrise. This wasn't just a corporate scheme. It was a pipeline, a machine built to extract value from vulnerable properties, exploit chaos, rewrite ownership, and she had walked right into the middle of it. The next morning, Dana sat across from her attorney, Michael Barnes, a litigator with salt and pepper hair and a glare that made other lawyers sweat. This is bigger than one lawsuit, she told him. It's systemic, coordinated. They're not just breaking laws, they're shaping policy so they can't be caught. Michael tapped his pen. Then we don't just sue. We take this federal. Conspiracy, fraud, racketeering, unlawful surveillance. And if they've funneled money to political influences, we bring in campaign finance law. Do we have enough to prove it? Not yet, he said, but we will. He leaned forward. You started a fight they thought they'd already won. And now they are bleeding in public. Dana nodded. Then we keep squeezing. That afternoon, Dana met again with Gloria, Felix, and Darren. This time, there were more chairs in the room, for new owners who'd heard about the fight and flown in. One had already lost a building. Another was days away from default. The others were holding the line with duct tape and legal prayers. Dana didn't speak to them like a CEO. She spoke to them like someone who had almost lost everything. We don't have the money they do, she said. We don't have the protection, but we have something they don't. What's that? One of them asked. Truth, Dana said. And visibility. They operate in silence. So we drag every piece of this into the light. The new group agreed to pool resources. legal, PR data. It wasn't just Dana's war anymore. It was theirs. But visibility came at a price. That night, as Dana prepared to head home, June came running down the hall with her tablet. You need to see this. Right now. Dana followed her into the war room. Nyla and one of the security analysts were already there, faces pale. On screen, a video posted anonymously on a shady financial gossip forum. The title? Leaked, Dana Monroe threatened staff during takeover. The footage was doctored. Dana's voice was spliced to sound like she was yelling, threatening people. The setting was her office, but the audio wasn't hers. It was fabricated, mashed together from old recordings. Anyone with basic tech knowledge could tell, but most of the public wouldn't know the difference. This is meant to go viral, June said. We've already seen it reposted 5 times in the last hour. They are trying to flip the story, Nyla added. Turn you into the aggressor. Dana didn't flinch. Then we respond. How? Not defensively, she said. We go straight to the truth. By sunrise, Dana released another video. This time not polished, not seated. Just her, standing in her lobby. No edits. No cuts. Another fake recording, she said, eyes steady. Another desperate attempt to make me look like the villain. I won't waste time defending myself against lies. Instead, I'm asking every small business owner, every builder, every hotel staffer whose watch corporations gut their workplaces, tell your story. She extended her hand to the camera. Let's tell it together. And the stories poured in, not just from hotel owners, from restaurant founders, non-profit leaders, community organizers, people who had built something, only to watch it slip away under contracts they didn't write, fine print they didn't understand. Dana's inbox flooded. So did her DMs. And every message was a matchstick. The fire was spreading. But just as momentum surged, June came in with a chilling update. Dana, we found the whistleblower. Dana blinked. Marcus. June nodded. Dead. The word hit like concrete. What? Apparent overdose. Found this morning. They are calling it accidental. Dana sat down hard. No. He was scared. Careful. I know. A silence settled between them. June spoke again, voice softer. We don't have proof. Not yet. But it's convenient. Too convenient. Dana covered her face with both hands. For a moment, all the strength she'd held for weeks threatened to collapse. But she didn't break. She just breathed. Then stood. Get me his family, she said. What? His sister. The one he mentioned. I want to talk to her. June hesitated. What are you going to say? Dana looked her in the eye. That her brother didn't die for nothing. That night, Dana went home and sat in her mother's old armchair. The one they dragged from her childhood apartment to every place they lived after. She sat there and let herself feel everything. The grief, the rage, the shame, and the resolve. They killed a kid to bury his story. But Dana Monroe had stopped being afraid the moment they threw her out of her own lobby. Now she was going to make damn sure every one of them had their names written in the ashes. The next morning, Dana wore all black. Not for fashion. For Marcus. She didn't go to the hotel. She went to a tiny row house across the city, knocked once, and waited. The door opened a crack. A woman stood there, younger than Dana had expected. Maybe early 20s. Puffy eyes. Red hoodie. Protective. Dana said. I'm Dana Monroe. You don't know me, but... The woman stepped back without a word and opened the door wide. Dana walked into a living room that still smelled like grief. Photos of Marcus were scattered on a side table, baby pictures, high school graduation, one where he wore a cheap suit and looked proud as hell. Dana took it all in. I'm Olivia, the sister said. I know who you are. Dana sat on the couch. I'm sorry. I told him not to get involved, Olivia said. Told him this wasn't his fight. But he said it was. Said you were the only one actually trying to stop these people. Dana swallowed. He gave me everything I needed to expose them. We're moving forward with the case. Olivia looked down. He was a nerd, you know. Always wanted to be on the right side of something. I just didn't think the cost would be this. Dana reached into her bag and pulled out a sealed envelope. Here's what I have. Not legal proof, yet, but enough to open the door. I'm making sure your brother's name isn't erased from this story. Olivia hesitated before taking it. I don't want money, she said. I'm not offering money, Dana said. I'm offering a legacy and protection, because if they think you're vulnerable, they'll come for you next. Olivia's chin lifted. Then I guess I better learn how to fight. Dana gave the smallest smile she'd managed in days. You've got good instincts. Later that afternoon, Dana returned to the Monarch Grand. As she entered the lobby, a young housekeeper passed her, pushing a linen cart. She paused. Miss Monroe. Dana turned. Yes. The woman smiled. Just wanted to say, we're all behind you. You gave us something real to work for. Don't let them take it. Dana looked her in the eyes and nodded once. Not a chance. In the war room, her legal team had converted the lounge into a full-blown command center. Whiteboards lined the walls, marked with names, arrows, and photos like something out of a crime show. Dana stood at the center. Michael, her lawyer, tapped a new name. Look who just entered the chat. Senator Bill Lambert. He's taking campaign contributions from a Tolland-affiliated PAC 3 years running. Guess what legislation he just introduced? Dana scanned a printout. Fast-track commercial real estate sales. Removes owner consent in bankruptcy restructures. Tailor-made for buyouts, June muttered. Dana stayed at the document. They're not just running companies. They are writing laws. Michael nodded grimly. And using public policy to legalize theft. I want a press briefing, Dana said. Tomorrow morning. And I want that senator's name front and center. That night, Dana received an email. No sender. No subject. Just one line of text. You go after the senator. You won't make it to the courthouse. Attached, a photo of her standing in her kitchen, taken through the window. That night, she stared at it for a long time. Then forwarded it to Nyla. Subject line. Bury them. The next morning, the press briefing wasn't just a media event. It was a reckoning. Dana stood at the podium outside City Hall, flanked by Gloria, Felix, Darren, and a dozen other small business owners who had joined the fight. Behind them, a massive LED screen showing a flowchart of names and money trails. Senator Lambert, Victor Toland, Silver West, Ashbridge and Rowe, PAC contributions, real estate flips. This is how it works, Dana said, voice hard. They kill your business with contracts. They kill your name with lies. And if that doesn't work, they kill your reputation with cameras and headlines. She paused. Sometimes they even kill the truth tellers. Silence spread through the crowd like fog. Marcus Brown was a junior analyst, 25 years old. He gave us the flash drive that exposed this. 2 days later, he was dead. They called it an overdose. I call it a message. More gasps. Cameras rolled. The LED screen flashed to a photo of Marcus, smiling in his cheap suit. His death will not go unnoticed. Dana's voice trembled, just slightly. But it didn't crack. We're filing a federal complaint with the Department of Justice. We're turning over files, money trails, offshore accounts, and planted surveillance evidence. And we're naming names, including elected officials. The crowd broke into spontaneous applause. Some even chanted her name. But Dana wasn't finished. This is no longer about one hotel. This is about every system that lets rich men rip the soul out of communities. They told me I didn't belong at my own hotel. Today, I'm telling them, you don't belong in my industry. She stepped away from the podium. The silence behind her was thunder. Back in her office, Dana poured herself a glass of water and sat at her desk. She didn't check her phone, didn't check social. She just breathed. Then June burst in. Dana, we've got a development. Dana stood. What now? An anonymous email just came in, again from the deep thread we traced to Silver West Insider Systems. She handed over a printed screenshot. Dana scanned it. Check board member Leon Hess's discretionary fund. You missed something. It ties to Toland. This is your door. Dana's breath caught. Leon Hess. He'd been one of the quietest board members. Voted against her once, abstained another time. Never loud. Always neutral. She pulled up the hotel's finance logs. Scrolled. There it was. A series of payouts labeled External Community Research, LH Fund. Amounts, $75,000. $125,000, $90,000, to a consultancy firm with zero online presence. Dana picked up her phone. June, get Nyla. Now. Because if Leon Hess had been laundering deals through the hotel before the attempted takeover, that meant this wasn't just Silver West trying to steal her property. It meant they'd been using her own business as a funnel to fund the hostile buyout. And if she could prove that, she wouldn't just take down Silver West. She'd detonate the entire operation from the inside out. The room was quiet, eerily so. Dana sat at the center of the war room, Leon Hess's transaction logs open on the screen in front of her. Nyla stood over her shoulder, June pacing in the corner, the legal team whispering frantically behind her. The files weren't speculative anymore. They were proof. Each transfer from Leon's discretionary fund had been masked with generic labels. Community outreach, consulting review, operational forecasting. But the recipient accounts all traced back to the same shell company. Stonewall Group LLC, registered in Delaware. No employees, no physical office, and linked to Victor Toland's private investment branch through a backdoor holding company in Luxembourg. Michael, her attorney, walked in carrying a thick manila folder. Just got off with the forensic accountant. The shell company received $2.3 million over 18 months. Roughly half came through Leon's fund. The rest, Silver West accounts, transferred through 4 cutouts. Dana stated the numbers. They used my hotel, she said, to help pay for its own hijacking. Michael nodded. They used your credibility, your bank accounts, and your clean record to launder dirty money. You were the perfect front. And Leon, she asked, what's his angle? He's been on Silver West payroll for 2 years, Michael said. We have emails. They are buried in legalese, but the implication is clear. He was promised a board seat at Toland's new hospitality brand once they secured the Monarch acquisition. Dana's stomach twisted. Call the DOJ, she said. Now, we're done playing by their schedule. That night, the feds came in quietly. 4 agents in suits, badges tucked inside their coats. No lights, no sirens. They met Dana in her suite and spoke in measured tones. We'll need the hard drives, one said. And we'll need to interview your legal and finance staff, off record, for now. Dana handed everything over. What about protection? She asked. My staff, my team. We'll monitor all incoming threats. We'll also be placing federal surveillance on your building starting tonight. Nyla looked impressed. We never get that this early. They never bring us this much this early, one agent replied. They left without ceremony, taking boxes and files with them. June closed the door behind them and leaned against it, stunned. Is this what winning feels like? Dana shook her head. This is what pulling the pin feels like. But as the investigation launched, the Empire started to panic. Within 24 hours, 3 Silver West execs resigned. Within 7-2, Ashbridge and Rowe removed their name from 3 consulting portfolios and issued a public statement. Our firm had no knowledge of internal misconduct related to Silver West Holdings. And Senator Lambert, he vanished from public view. Cancelled appearances. No comment to reporters. His social media accounts went dark. Dana knew why. The PAC trail had reached his door. She stood in the Monarch Grand's lobby the next morning, watching the news ticker scroll past. DOJ opens inquiry into Silver West Holdings. Senator linked to real estate laundering scandal. Monarch Grand CEO Dana Monroe credited with blowing whistle. The phone in her hand buzzed again. More calls. More press requests. More victims. She didn't answer any of them. Not yet. Instead, she walked out of the lobby and into the alley behind the hotel where the delivery trucks came in. It was quiet there. Unseen. She leaned against the brick wall and closed her eyes. The adrenaline was fading now. The high of revenge replaced by the heavy weight of what comes next. She'd won, technically. The case was in motion. Her hotel was safe. Her enemies were retreating. But it hadn't brought her mother back. It hadn't brought Marcus back. And even now, in the silence, she couldn't forget the phone call, the voice that had warned her. You don't know who you're really up against. Because even with Silver West exposed, Toland wasn't gone. He hadn't spoken publicly. He hadn't denied anything. He hadn't even blinked, which meant he was either preparing to disappear or planning something worse. Back in the war room, June was waiting. "There's one more thing," she said. "This came in 10 minutes ago." She slid a thumb drive across the table. From an anonymous sender again. Same encryption as the first leak. But this time, it's not internal documents. Dana plugged it in. A folder opened. Our recordings. Inside, 6 audio files. Each one labeled by date and time. The first file clicked on automatically. Victor Toland's voice. "I don't care who she is. I don't care how many articles she's in. We don't need to fight her. We just need to wait her out." A pause. Then another voice. Calm, composed, utterly detached. "Do we have confirmation on the secondary acquisition path?" "Yes," Toland said. "If the feds get too close, we fall back. Sweep the other targets. We leave her a win, but gut everything around her. She won't know we're gone until we're already moved on." The file ended. Dana sat back. They hadn't just planned her removal. They'd planned her victory. Let her have a hotel, her spotlight, her moment, while they quietly erased the others. Moved funds, bought judges, changed names. She'd been fighting for the crown, but they'd been reshaping the entire board. Dana stood. "We're not finished." June looked confused. "What do you mean? We're taking this to court." "Not enough," Dana said. "Not if they are building the next empire while we're still picking through the last one." She turned to the whiteboard and drew a circle around Toland's name, then drew lines to 10 others. "If this is bigger than one war, we need to be bigger than one courtroom." June stepped forward, quiet. "What are you going to do?" Dana capped the marker. "Burn the playbook." That night, she made one final call. To someone who had once offered her money, then rescinded it when she refused to give up creative control. An investor, a billionaire, an enemy. She didn't ask for cash this time. She offered him a deal. "I know how to kill Silver West's model. You want access to the future of real estate. Partner with me. Cleanly. Publicly. Permanently." There was a pause on the line. Then the man said, "Let me guess. You're not interested in rebuilding what you had." Dana smiled. "No, I'm building something no one can take away." 3 months later, the courtroom was standing room only. Federal Court, Southern District of New York. The case of Monroe et al. Versus Silver West Holdings, Victor Toland, Leon Hess, and others had finally made it to trial. The room was packed with journalists, independent hotel owners, legal observers, and lobbyists in expensive shoes trying to look invisible. Dana sat at the plaintiff's table, poised, steady, and still. Her legal team flanked her, June behind her with a laptop and Nyla at the back wall, arms folded, eyes on every entrance. It had taken months of prep, depositions, subpoenas, delays, threats, but they were here, and now it was public record. Exhibit A, the laundering trail. Exhibit B, internal memos planning her removal. Exhibit C, the doctored audio footage used to smear her. Exhibit D, audio of Victor Toland admitting to secondary acquisition tactics and coordinated buyouts. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, leaned over the bench. "To be clear, Ms. Monroe, are you alleging that this company engaged in a pattern of strategic deception across multiple cities for the purpose of defrauding property owners and manipulating regulatory protections for financial gain?" Dana stood slowly. "No, Your Honor," she said. The room shifted, confused. "I'm alleging they did more than that. They turned communities into commodities. They exploited grieving families, vulnerable entrepreneurs, and minority-owned businesses. They used the law like a crowbar, then called it opportunity." She paused, "And when I stood up to it, they tried to destroy me." Silence followed. Then the judge nodded once. Noted. The trial lasted 5 weeks. Victor Toland was forced to testify. He lied, of course. But under cross-examination, he cracked. Just once. Enough. A single inconsistency in his timeline unraveled part of his defense. And Michael, Dana's lead counsel, pounced on it like a shark tasting blood. Emails proved Leon Hess had ghostwritten reports to support phony audits. Wire transfers linked Toland to shell firms connected to 2 other real estate fraud cases. And when a former Silver West accountant took the stand, she testified that she was told directly, "Don't ask where it comes from. Just make the ledger match." In the gallery, hotel owners Dana had never met wept silently. By week 4, 3 other defendants flipped. They confirmed the operation. Stage 1. Target vulnerable assets. Stage 2. Manufacture leadership instability. Stage 3. Move in proxy management. Stage 4. Strip, sell, flip, repeat. Dana sat through it all, face unreadable, until closing arguments. Then she stood. This wasn't a legal strategy. This was a message. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, addressing the jury. "They thought I would fold. They thought I would settle. Take a buyout. Walk away quiet. That's how it usually goes. But I didn't." She stepped closer. "I watched them drag my name through the mud. I watched them erase a young man who tried to stop them. And every time I got knocked down, I got back up." She pointed toward the defendants. "These people see buildings. I see families, staff who rely on steady work, communities that rely on small business. My mother taught me that we don't walk away from something we built. We fight for it." She took a breath. "Don't let them call this business. It's not. It's theft, disguised in paperwork, buried in spreadsheets. And if we don't call it what it is, it will keep happening." She looked the jury in the eye. "Be the reason it stops, hey?" 2 days later, the verdict came in. Guilty on all counts. Fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, corporate espionage. And in the civil suit, $137 million awarded to Dana and the other plaintiffs. Silver West was dissolved within a month. Tolan disappeared from public life. Senator Lambert resigned under ethics investigation. Leon Hess was arrested. And Dana? She didn't just get her hotel back. She became a symbol. 6 months after the trial, she stood at the groundbreaking of a new building. Not another luxury hotel. A nonprofit initiative, the Marcus Initiative, a national accelerator program for underfunded hospitality entrepreneurs, especially women of color, LGBTQ founders, and people from communities historically left out of the real estate space. Fully funded by restitution from the lawsuit. Standing beside her at the podium were Olivia, Marcus's sister, Gloria St. James, Darren Wire, and Felix Tanaka. The press had shown up again. But this time, Dana didn't care about headlines. She only cared about one thing. Legacy. Not hers. Everyone's. She stepped to the MIC. "When I was kicked out of my own hotel, I said I'd fire every last one of them. And I did. But firing people doesn't change systems." She looked out over the crowd. "Building something better does." Applause roared. But she didn't smile. She just nodded once, then walked off the stage, down into the dirt, and laid the first stone herself. The cameras clicked, but Dana Monroe was already thinking of what came next.